have John Stolnis come on Good Morning NFC East. He's a regular on Birds 365, or it feels like you're a regular now, John.
Yeah, I think maybe we're approaching that level. I don't know. Well, you have to talk to Jody and John about that. I don't know.
It's funny. We're always competing for your talent.
Well, no, I mean, it's just I'm the low-hanging fruit. I'm always ready for you guys. So
always available. Well,
yeah.
it's always better to be available than not available.
That's right.
Which Hassan, I'm sorry, not Hassan, right? Aaron Donald was not available this year, yet he was a first-team All-Pro.
Yeah, weird. There's some guys who, and this is the same in every sport, they get in on reputation, right? I mean, that's just how it goes sometimes.
How do you feel about the player? Like, I like how they do have a piece of the pie here, but how do you feel about them kind of having their separate All-Pro team and kind of not getting on the media? I know I am a member of the media, so this is why I'm bringing this up. You're a member of the media too. But just them having their own piece of the pie, and I actually think they did a pretty good job of not embarrassing themselves like they do on the top 100.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, they don't get a chance to see these other guys play. I mean, you get a chance. I think these guys, maybe they'll watch the Sunday night game or the Monday night game or whatever, but they're doing their own thing and they're focusing on their own team and their own job. So they don't get a chance to watch all these different guys. So it's by reputation. It's by what other guys around the league are saying about when they played these other guys. And it's a lot of word of mouth stuff. And then, you're trying to help out your friends in a lot of cases with different votes. So you take all these things with a grain of salt, and each list has its own advantages and disadvantages and influences and all that. So people get worked up about them. I don't get all that worked up about it. I mean, they're for fun, especially the Players Association All-Pro poll, because you're not getting, I don't think anybody has any bonuses written into their contracts for getting on that particular team. So it's, it's all for fun.
Well, the other week I was criticized on Twitter for, it was the Kayvon Thibodeau Jeff Saturday quarrel with Jeff Saturday went on Kayvon Thibodeau for doing the Snow Angel thing on Nick Foles. And I'm like, dude, show Jeff Saturday again, I'll mock Jeff Saturday as coach any day of the week, but show this man some respect. He made 7 Pro Bowls. And people were like, well, technically he made 6. That last one was a joke. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Like, I get there are a lot of reputation Pro Bowl selections, but I can guarantee you Tom Brady and Drew Brees did that as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's happened to Eagles players throughout the years. I think last year, did Josh Sweat make a Pro Bowl last year? I think
he did.
Yeah, and I don't know that he deserved it all that much. A decent season, but I mean, guys get in and they in weird seasons and they get in by reputation or whatever. So again, yeah, it's people like to get worked up about things, and that's okay. It's all fun as long as we're not getting ready to get out the pitchforks and the flaming arrows and all that. Everybody can have fun. It's just sports, no big deal.
One of my favorite and worst parts of social media this time of year is when people do I can't think of the word right now. This is bad. All the clips of the predictions from the beginning of the year and people saying the Eagles will win 7 games, Eagles will win 8, Eagles will win 9. Well, they ended up winning 14, right? Yeah. And I saw a couple clips of some of my colleagues on HQ, and this is why I tell people, this is why I don't make predictions for this exact reason.
Yeah, I mean, every year I do a 10 bold predictions for the Eagles and I do 10 bold predictions for the NFL. And my 10 Eagles predictions this year, I was feeling really strong and feeling really confident about the team. So they were all overly optimistic, and I knew that going in. And I said as part of the write-up, like, these are overly optimistic. These will not hit. And the funny thing is, the Eagles had such a good season that 8 out of the 10 ended up coming true when you look at the statistics and how everybody ended up doing. And then I looked at my NFL predictions and they were awful. I mean, I think I hit on a couple of things. I think I hit on the Packers not making the playoffs because that team had bad vibes all around. And I hit on Doug Peterson and the Jaguars having a good year. A couple other teams I saw having a better season, the Lions. But, it's the rest of them are all garbage. And you just can't take these things all that seriously. I mean, hit me for it. I admitted at the beginning of the year, these are probably going to be bad. It's okay. It doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. If somebody calls out an old take, it's okay. We're wrong sometimes, and that's fine. Just everybody relax.
I got laughed at week 1 because I said the Lions were going to have a winning season.
Yeah, I mean, you put yourself out there and you hope you hit it right because then you can crow about it. But then you also got to understand, well, yeah, I called that one wrong. Okay, no big deal. We'll get them next time. It's no big deal. It's fine.
I guarantee you I'm wrong 90% of the time.
We all are. We all are.
We're human, right? So
Yeah.
we got to talk about the Eagles during this bye week here. And Nick Sirianni is going to be practicing. Going to have them practice Thursday and Friday. They're going to be available to the media. I'm not sure. Oh no, Jalen Hurts is speaking. He's speaking today.
Okay.
Are you curious to hear more about this shoulder injury, or is this just bye week fodder?
Well, I'd love to hear more about it. He's not going to tell us anything about it. I mean, we can want all we want to. Jalen Hurts is not going to reveal any more than he revealed after the game on Sunday. I'm sure it's sore. I'm sure it hurts. It doesn't sound as though there is a risk of re-injury. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't be playing if they could damage it more on a long term. It sounds like it's a pain management situation. He threw the ball fine on Sunday, probably a little rusty, and it probably took a quarter for the arm to kind of get into the swing of things. The Eagles' offense was also very limited in their play calling, so I don't know that he was being asked to make all the throws he normally would make. I think it'll be interesting to see how hard he pushes it in practice over the next couple of weeks, whether they choose to really let him rest or what the balance is between making sure he doesn't get rusty, making sure he maintains a good flow with his receivers and flow of the offense, but at the same time also trying to rest his shoulder. But at the end of the day, I think they're going to call their normal game on whatever it is, Saturday or Sunday next week in the divisional round against whoever it is they end up playing. I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say, how he approaches it. But my guess is Jalen Hurts is going to be Jalen Hurts. He's going to keep everything close to the vest. He's going to deflect attention away from himself. He's going to talk about the team, about getting ready. And I think I could almost write a transcript at this point of what I expect Jalen Hurts to say. And it's going to be probably about 90% accurate because he doesn't give anything away.
I loved Jalen Hurts Sunday, and I only got to catch the middle of the press conference because I was in the locker room, I was talking to guys like Robert Quinn and the Dom Consume. We were talking for a bit, but then I realized I had to get the Hurts, and he's just like, I played, and I'm like, okay, this is a savage answer by Jalen Hurts, and then he goes, well, I wasn't running. That's what you wanted me to do, right? I like how he kind of gives away like he hears everything about him.
Oh yeah. No, he's part of this age of social media and all that, and he's not overly active like Darius Slay, like you guys were talking about before I came on. But every young player in the NFL, it's not like the old days where you'd have these veterans who are talking about, oh, well, we don't read the papers. Stop. There are no papers anymore. You don't go to the Wawa and buy yourself a print paper and sit down and read it. Everybody's got news streaming on their phone through their social media apps and the TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff. You can't avoid it if you're a player right now, unless you just decide, no technology. I'm going to live my life without any technology. So yes, he hears everything. He hears the conversations. He hears the criticisms. I think all the players do. And yeah, I think the way he approaches it, he's very mature. And when you think about his maturity level and how young he actually is, he carries himself and plays in a way and talks about the game and himself like he's 27, 28, 29, a guy who's been to multiple Pro Bowls, who's had multiple deep runs in the playoffs. He just has that quiet confidence about him that if he does see stuff, I think he just catalogs it, in the back of his mind. He's got a list of people that maybe he's going to do his best to show up on the field, but he's not a braggart. He doesn't get out in front of it. He doesn't pound his chest. They got that quiet confidence. And I think that's why he's such a good leader. That's why everybody on the team likes him and respects him, and why he just brings such a sense of calm to the team when he's on the field.
I was trying to get out of a couple players this week, especially the older guys, like the veterans. I kind of knew what answer I was going to get, but you still got to ask them, like, what was the vibe in the locker room with Jalen Hurts coming back? And I got some good answers to, like, look, we all believe in Gardner Minshew, there's no doubt about that, but this guy's the MVP. That's how they feel about this guy. Like, they're like, it's like you get a brand new pair of shoes. That's essentially how it was put. Like your swag's back, your confidence is back. And I felt like with a lot of the veterans on that team, Jalen Hurts definitely gravitates toward like guys like Robert Quinn and Dominic Sue. They haven't even been here the whole year, and they know what impact Jalen Hurts has on this football team.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things about Hurts is that he seems to connect with his offensive players and his defensive players. And Nick Foles had that too. I mean, the defensive players loved Nick Foles when he was here. Carson Wentz did not engender that kind of camaraderie with the rest of his team. And I don't know if you're an NFL quarterback, you necessarily have to have that, but it sure is nice when your quarterback is the North Star, and he's leading you in a direction, and you all know that that is your guy. And when he's as young as he is, and you can have more of an influence over the defensive players and the rest of the locker room when you're playing as well as Jalen Hurts is playing. I mean, it's one thing to be a good leader and be a middle of the pack quarterback in the league, right? You're going to have guys who are detractors. You're going to have guys who will in the locker room openly criticize or wonder about the backup. Would that be when Jalen Hurts puts together the kind of season he put together and he's leading the team in the way he's leading the team, it's a dynamic combination. And so everybody does line up behind him because they see his skill, his ability, his athleticism, his toughness, and the way he works out. I loved that on Monday he wanted to come in and watch film with Sirianni and Steichen and the rest of the offensive coaching staff. Just he didn't want the day off. He wanted to make sure that he was coming in to watch and to get better and to look and see what he could be doing better. And I don't think he's a candidate who's going to burn out or something like that. Like he just lives, breathes, and sleeps this sport right now. And at this point in his career, at this point in his life, that's what it is. That's what it is for him. And, you know, that's what this team needs. And the rest of the team rallies around that. And, you know, he sets that tone. And that's what makes this team potentially a very special team over the next month.
And you know, in the back of his mind, he's thinking about that playoff game from last year and all the things that was said about him. He goes, look, this is my chance. We're the number one seed. This is my chance to change the narrative on my career, because I once thought Dak Prescott was going to make a lot of deep playoff runs with the Cowboys just because of the talent around him, Ezekiel Elliott, the offensive line. It never happened. Jalen Hurts still has that opportunity. He's still young enough and this team is good enough where he can make a Super Bowl. By the way, if Jalen Hurts makes a Super Bowl this year, he's going to be one of the youngest quarterbacks ever to make a Super Bowl. I think he thinks about that stuff and says, you know what? This is my time. I'm going to take advantage of it.
Yeah, and I think Brandon Lee Gouton tweeted this stat out on Sunday after the game. I think Jalen Hurts is the youngest quarterback to ever win 14 games in a season, other than Dan Marino. And it's just some of the all-time great quarterbacks out there never had the kind of success Jalen Hurts has had in the regular season. You know, Montana, Brady, all those guys, you know, Jalen Hurts is doing stuff those guys haven't ever done before. So I do think he's looking at last year and his performance against Tampa Bay and is motivated to right the ship, to make sure that that doesn't happen again, that he can actually, on his home field as the favorite against whoever it is that's coming in there, do better. And that doesn't mean they're necessarily going to win. Jalen Hurts can have a much better game, a very good game, a great game, and the team still not be able to pull out a win. But at the very least, for him to do his part and to say, we're not going to have a repeat of the disaster that we saw in Tampa last year, because he was bad in that Buccaneers game. And it's an open question on Hurts as to whether or not he can do that, whether or not he can play better in a playoff game against a really good team. He has beaten good teams this year. The Eagles certainly, I think, will be a heavy favorite against whoever it is they face in the divisional round, except the Cowboys, and they'll still be a favorite against Dallas. But I think, you know, everything he has done this year gives you confidence that he is going to rebound. He is going to bounce back and play well in the playoffs. And as long as he's not too sore, as long as the injury, and I just wish he hadn't suffered that injury against Chicago and we knew that he was 100% coming into this playoff game. I think confidence levels would be higher than they will be on Saturday and Sunday. And maybe after that game, maybe after the divisional round, we will feel a lot better about this team and its direction, because it certainly has been kind of a bumpy last couple of weeks.
I haven't had this much confidence in the Philadelphia Eagles team going into the postseason since probably 2004. Because I remember the whole narrative there. Well, the Eagles are beatable now that they don't have Terrell Owens. Well, they still had Donovan McNabb, a 5-time Pro Bowl quarterback. They still had Brian Westbrook. They still had an amazing defense. And I said, bring on the 8-8 Minnesota Vikings, right? The Eagles got the best possible matchup they could in that divisional round. So I got to ask you this, John. Of the 4 possible teams they can play, which one do you want?
Give me the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks are kind of, they're that last team in. The number 7 seeds in the playoffs these last couple of years have not fared very well. The Eagles last year, a prime example. I know the Eagles historically have had trouble with Seattle, but that was with Russell Wilson at quarterback. And I know Geno has had a very good season under center for Seattle, and I'm not taking anything away from them, but I think this is a team the Eagles would match up really well with. They don't stop the run very well. I think the Eagles could run all over them all day. And asking Seattle to come in here. I also would like to get whatever team San Francisco is playing, because we know no team has won the week after playing the San Francisco 49ers this year. 0-15, 0-16 teams are after playing the San Francisco 49ers. So the Seahawks getting the 49ers, if they go into San Francisco and if they go into San Francisco and win that game, that means the 49ers are out, which would be awesome. And you would also have known that they got bruised and battered probably against a very good 49ers defense and may not have a whole lot left coming into Philadelphia.
So I got to write for CBS this week. I'm doing the 49ers Seahawks game, and I had to write 3 reasons why I think the 49ers will win. That was easy. It's a matchup nightmare for Seattle. But now I got to do 3 reasons the Seahawks will win. I can't find 3. So if Seattle wins, I may stop writing for a week.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And that would literally, I think, be the most shocking first round upset if they're able to pull that off. I mean, the 49ers, what do they want? 10 in a row? Mm-hmm. And Seattle. Now, listen, it's a divisional opponent. And so weird things do happen sometimes when divisional opponents play one another. These two teams do know each other very, very well. And I will say, as well as Brock Purdy has played, he is a 3rd-string rookie quarterback that was drafted in the 7th round. I know he hasn't played like it this year. And Kyle Shanahan makes his offense pretty much quarterback-proof. That being said, it would not be out of the realm of possibility that the 3rd-string rookie quarterback making his first ever playoff appearance would struggle in this game. Now, he's going up against Geno Smith. It's not like he's going up against Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers or somebody with a ton of playoff experience themselves. The Seahawks don't exactly have, it's not Russell Wilson back there. But if you're looking for a reason why Seattle might win, you might look at the 49ers quarterback situation and say to yourself, there's potential that this kid maybe isn't quite ready for the moment. So that's, if you're rooting for the Seahawks, I think that's one of the angles you're taking, is that maybe we can take advantage of some inexperience under center for the opponent.
When I had to watch, one of my jobs for CBS this year was watching all the quarterbacks in the preseason games. So I got to watch a lot of Brock Purdy and a lot of Skylar Thompson and Anthony Brown, who, by the way, all 3 might be starting on Sunday, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I actually thought Skylar Thompson was way better than Brock Purdy this preseason. And granted, Purdy didn't throw that much. I like Purdy coming out of college. But if you asked me which one of the 3 was going to have the better career, I would have said, well, Skylar Thompson, just based on how he was running that offense and how he was commanding everything. Skylar Thompson's been awful, and Brock Purdy's been great. So you're right, though. But again, this is mystery relevant. This is the last pick in the draft. I'm curious to see how Brock Purdy does against a Dallas Cowboys, a Philadelphia Eagles. And I don't know if we're ever going to see that this year.
Well, we might not. But I mean, if the 49ers beat the Seahawks, they will get a Dallas or a Philadelphia at some point. At some point. Yeah. At some point here in the playoffs, he will have to, and if it's Philadelphia, he'll have to go on the road and beat a defense that finished with 70 sacks this season. So, I mean, this just tells you, the Brock Purdy situation tells you how important coaching is in this league, right? Kyle Shanahan is a mastermind. And the fact that the offense is humming along the way it is, how they've been better since Jimmy Garoppolo went down and without Trey Lance, the fact that they are operating at such a high level with a quarterback as inexperienced and without as much pedigree as Brock Purdy has had, it's very similar to when Tom Brady took over for Drew Bledsoe in his rookie season. Nobody thought Tom Brady could lead the Patriots on the playoff run that he ended up going on. And now we know Tom Brady is the greatest of all time. But nobody knew that in the moment. Tom Brady was not a high draft pick. And he was he wasn't a rookie, but it was his first time playing on a regular basis. So that is not a bar you would expect Brock Purdy to reach, but it's not unprecedented for a rookie to come in, especially when you've got good head coaching, when you've got an offense filled with skill players and a scheme that gives defenses fits. Brock Purdy has been put in a fantastic position to succeed because he has one of the best head coaches and one of the best offensive coaching staffs in football helping him. And that, I think that's instructive for every team out there that has quarterback issues. You can go out and you can draft the most highly touted quarterback that you want. If you don't surround him with good coaching and you don't give him an offensive line that can protect him, it's going to be exceedingly difficult for that quarterback to succeed. And on the other side of that coin, if you do give that quarterback coaching, if you do give that quarterback an offensive line, you can set that quarterback up for success. I mean, you look at Hurts, second round pick. He has great coaching around him and a great offensive line. That's what you need in order to truly become a really good quarterback in this league. I mean, you see it with Jared Goff this year, of all people. Struggled tremendously with the Rams, and Sean McVay is a good coach. He won a Super Bowl with Jared Goff, but at the same time, Jared Goff was not the reason they won the Super Bowl. He had a great season for the Lions because he was with a dynamic young offensive coordinator, and that offensive line for the Lions is exceedingly good. You can put your quarterback like Brock Purdy in a position to succeed by surrounding him with talent and giving him a good coaching staff. Anybody looking to improve their offense, find an offensive coordinator or an offensive-minded coach that knows what they're doing.
And this is why I have issues with Byron Leftwich. I'm not sure if he knows what he's doing or not in Tampa Bay because I get Tom Brady's 45, but Tom Brady was 44 last year and arguably had his best year. Now all of a sudden you get rid of Bruce Arians and Tom Brady's just a guy now? I don't understand, but this is where I wanted to go back to the Jalen Hurts thing. If you look at the NFC playoff field, Jalen Hurts never won a playoff game. Brock Purdy, obviously, has never won a playoff game. Kirk Cousins, I think he has one playoff win, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's right. He beat the Saints on the road. Tom Brady's got 35. Dak's got 1. See, I forget the rest of it. Geno Smith, obviously, has never started a playoff game. And Daniel Jones has never started a playoff game. It is wide open for Jalen Hurts to take over this conference this year.
It is, and it's wide open for somebody else too. That's the scary part, So whatever, but you're right. I mean, Jalen Hurts had the best season of any quarterback in the NFC. He is the best quarterback in the NFC right now. It would have been great to see him go up against Dak Prescott in that game against Dallas. That would have been a really good measuring stick game because Dak played perfectly. Yeah, with that pick 6 aside to Josh Sweat, which I don't know how much of that was really his fault either. I mean, it was just a phenomenal play by Sweat. He played perfectly in that game. And then you see him come out and he's throwing interceptions all over the place last week. And he's been very, very inconsistent. When Dak is on his game, he's the best quarterback in the NFC right now. But he's just as likely to have a clunker at an inopportune time. And he has had opportunities in the playoffs and has not been able to come through. He's had opportunities in big games and hasn't come through. So until he's able to do that, until he's able to go on a playoff run, you can't say that he's definitely going to do it. And so, yeah, you're right. The Eagles, this is probably going to be their best chance under Jalen Hurts to win a Super Bowl. If we're looking, and I know the core is going to be here for a long time with these young guys, but I don't know how much longer Lane Johnson has. I don't know how much longer Jason Kelce has. You're going to have to pay Jalen Hurts this offseason, so you're not going to be able to surround him with as much high-priced defensive talent. You're going to have to get better in the draft and rely on some more young guys moving forward because you're going to be paying your quarterback so much. And the NFC playoff field is absolutely wide open. Right. There really is there's no juggernaut team. The Eagles are the juggernaut team along with the 49ers. They're very evenly matched. You could not ask for a more perfect opportunity for the Eagles to go on a playoff run here. So whether or not they do it, bad luck always factors into it. It's just injuries factor into it. You don't really know how Jalen Hurts' shoulder is going to respond in a couple of weeks, but it's wide open for them for the reasons you mentioned. They're really not like the AFC where you have all these Hall of Fame caliber looking quarterbacks there. The NFC is wide open in terms of signal callers.
That's what I was trying to tell Bills fans. I was on the Bills radio station this week and everybody's like, it's their year. I'm like, you're right, but it's also the Chiefs year. It's also the Bengals year. They're really good. And I could make an argument the Jaguars and the Chargers can make a playoff run if things go their way because they have the franchise quarterback. And the NFC, It's completely different. And I wish Eagles fans would kind of grasp this. I tweeted yesterday, the Eagles had the number 1 seed in the NFC 5 times since division realignment. No one else has had more than 3. And the response was, well, they should have more Super Bowls. I'm like, I don't think people can grasp how hard it actually is, not to just win it, but to get there.
Yeah, it's exceedingly hard. There's more rounds in the playoffs, and players are changing teams so much more than they used to. I mean, when those Steelers teams were winning all those Super Bowls, when the Cowboys were America's team, you had most of those guys stay on that team for the entirety of their careers. You don't have that now. I mean, guys are forcing trades left and right. Free agency came to the NFL, and it's really hard with salary cap and all that to maintain a team. You know, you look at like with Jalen, it would be great if you could continue to pay Jalen Hurts what you're paying him for the rest of his career to supply him with all the talent around him. That's not the way the world works. You know, you've got to pay your quarterbacks and you've got to pay for really good players. And it's very difficult to keep a team together. It would be wonderful if you could keep this Eagles team exactly the way it is for the next 3 or 4 years. That's what you used to be able to do. You can't do that anymore. So it's extremely hard to get to the Super Bowl. It's extremely hard to be able to get to NFC championship games year after year. What the Chiefs are doing is amazing. If you want to look at a team that should have more Super Bowl wins, it's Kansas City. But the competition in the AFC is ridiculous. You could argue that the Chiefs should have more. I mean, that the Bills should have Super Bowls by now. I mean, it's just the Patriots could even have. I mean, you had to deal with the Patriots for the last 15 years before Tom Brady went away. So it's really, really hard. And the Patriots made it look easy because they had the greatest player in NFL history on their team. There's just, that's not something that every team can have. And so it's really, really hard to make it through to the Super Bowl and get there year after year.
One of my just desserts in football, I said, I've never been a hot take guy, but I will pound the table that Andy Reid is a way better head coach than Bill Belichick. I always will. And I feel like now I'm getting my just dessert because I always said the Patriot way is the Brady way. And Brady's gone. Brady went somewhere else and won a Super Bowl. Bill Belichick, meanwhile, has been mired in mediocrity with bad coaching decisions. And I don't know if he would have done this in 2010, in 2005, but he's done it. And he hasn't looked as good, and he hasn't had his quarterback. Which brings the question, John, is Bill Belichick, you take away Tom Brady, do you really think he's all that and a bag of chips?
I probably not. I mean, but Tom Brady certainly helped Bill Belichick, was probably the main reason they won all of those Super Bowls. But you can't take a whole lot away from what Belichick did, because, he certainly was put in a position where he was giving Brady everything he needed to succeed. And he had a defense there that also certainly helped Tom Brady win those Super Bowls. If I have to place a certain amount of credit for all the Super Bowls, Brady probably gets 70% of the credit, and Bill Belichick, I would say, gets about 30% of the credit for that. But we've seen great quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, Dan Marino, who probably had just as much talent as Tom Brady, and if not more talent, physical talent than Tom Brady, failed to win get to the Super Bowl and win all those different Super Bowls and all that kind of stuff. Some of it does come down to coaching and consistency and all that. So whether or not I can't say I'd put Reid ahead of Belichick in terms of who's a better coach at this point, because now Andy Reid has Patrick Mahomes, who might be the Tom Brady of this generation. It just goes to show you, when you pair up a good head coach with a good quarterback, you're going to have long-term success. And whether or not you win a bunch of Super Bowls along the way is dependent on, sometimes it's not your year, sometimes you have injury luck, sometimes other things happen. Trying to find that secret formula. There is no secret formula. You just give yourself the best opportunity you can every year.
Honestly, the real secret formula in the NFL is, and I don't think it's a secret, get a really good team with a quarterback on the rookie deal, and you see how good you are.
And surround him with as much talent as you can, for sure. Get him an offensive line that can protect him. Get him weapons that he can throw the ball to. And hope your defense, try and put a defense together that can get off the field on third downs, and you're off.
I wanted to ask you, I know before you came on, I didn't want to bring this up earlier, but Darius Slay, why do you feel this guy gets the vitriol he does?
I think with Darius Slay, early in the season, he was getting a lot of interceptions. And that's, I think, how a lot of fans judge how good a cornerback is doing. Does he get burned for touchdowns, and is he creating turnovers? Because most fans are not watching the all-22. And most fans are not keyed in to what coverages Jonathan Gannon is calling. Most of us don't notice during the course of a game how often a specific cornerback is getting targeted. I think early in the season, Slay was getting targeted more often. The Eagles also were playing teams who had really good number one receivers, and Slay was shutting him down. I mean, we remember that Justin Jefferson game came in the second game of the season. It raised the bar of expectations for everybody with Darius Slay. We all thought, oh my gosh, he's going to put in an all-timer season here. And Slay has simply been very good over the second half of the season. He's given up some touchdowns. The touchdown to Kenny Golladay last week was annoying. He was in a good position, but didn't make the play. And I think when you have a guy who's making as much money as Darius Slay, taking up as much of the cap, you need him to make splash plays. You need him to get interceptions when the opportunities are there. But we've seen teams start to pick apart the middle of the field, going after when Josiah Scott was in there, going after the slot receiver, attacking the Eagles linebackers with tight ends, and not really trying to get number one wide receivers involved in the passing game. Just thinking off the top of my head, I'm not thinking of an outside number one receiver that's had a really big game in the second half of the season against Slay necessarily. Slay hasn't been generating a lot of interceptions, but he also hasn't been getting torched by number one receivers. So I think fans react to what they saw earlier in the season and the fact that Slay is not getting a whole lot of interceptions. And I think a lot of that is because he hasn't been targeted as much. I don't have the numbers to back that up, but that's just kind of as a feel that I have as I've been watching these games over the last couple months of the season.
I actually, I had a fan ask me on Twitter. He said, "Hey, I got a question for you. Can you go over Darius Slay's numbers the second half of the year? I'm just curious. Like, it wasn't like good or bad. Like just going after Slay." And I showed him it, and he goes, "You know what? That's not that terrible." I said, "No, it's not." I'm like, "That's pretty much what he normally does." And he goes, "Oh, so he was just really, really good the first half of the year." And he responded back, "Yeah." So I didn't get the video roll toward him either. And I think he was more curious about how Darius Slay was playing more than anything else. I'll actually engage with some of those fans, but why do you think Jonathan Gannon gets what he gets? To me, it drives me nuts because Buddy Ryan never had a top 10 defense, and yet he's revered here.
Yeah, I think we think of that 91 defense. It was all Buddy's guys, but it was Bud Carson who was the defensive coordinator. But we remember that as a Buddy defense because it was all his guys, but it wasn't. It wasn't a Buddy defense. And those Buddy Ryan defenses generated a lot of turnovers. They had those big, I think for fans, it's about splash. We remember the 11 sack game with Troy Aikman. We remember Clyde Simmons racking up 17 sacks in a season, Reggie White setting the all-time sack record. We don't remember Izell Jenkins getting roasted week in and week out. We look at this Jonathan Gannon defense. And I think the impression is, and I have this because I don't know what to make of Jonathan Gannon. It doesn't appear as though he's doing a whole lot of things differently. We react to aggression. We react to splash plays. We react to game-changing shows of force. That's why everybody loved Jim Johnson. But with Jim Johnson, when an offense would figure out his blitz scheme, you would beat the Eagles defense pretty easily. And that was the thing. The Eagles relied on blitzing, and I always thought that would come back to bite them at least once in the playoffs, and it usually did. A team would figure Jim Johnson's scheme out. With Jonathan Gannon, he relies on tomfoolery. He relies on trying to trick offenses with not letting teams trying to fool them pre-snap into what it is that they're doing. You really need to watch the all 22 to get a sense of what it is Jonathan Gannon is trying to do. And for the casual fan, it's not easy to see it. And I will say, I think a good defensive coordinator gets more out of the talent around him than he has. So you look at like the Ray Rhodes defense in 1995. He got so much out of a group of journeyman defensive players in that season. And that's what Eagles fans love. They recognize, hey, these guys aren't household names, and look how well they're doing. The Eagles went out and essentially got an all-pro team together. And Jonathan Gannon is using those guys to put together a very good defensive season. I think the criticism they have of Jonathan Gannon, and the thing everyone wonders is the defensive success because of the great players that Howie Roseman has given him, or is it how much of that is the players and how much of it is Gannon? And I think that's an open question.
John, I always appreciate you coming on, my friend. I'm going to have you on again some point these playoffs. Hopefully next week is not the last week we're actually talking football on Good Morning NFC East. I'm not ready to talk about the offseason yet.
No, me either. Hopefully we go on a run, baby.
Yeah, that's how I'm feeling. Hopefully, you and I are taking a flight to Glendale in a couple weeks.
Well, I won't be flying anywhere, but I'll certainly talk to you if you're there. So for sure.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. I'll talk to you, John.
You bet.
Yeah. All right, everybody. That's John Stolnis from Bleeding Green